Have you ever wondered why silence can feel sharper than words, colder than rejection, and yet strangely more comforting than company? Within the labyrinth of human behavior lies a paradox. The more we immerse ourselves in social exchanges, the more we yearn for the sanctuary of detachment. In this paradox, Natori Hogan's voice echoes like a bell in the snow, calling us to examine the hidden art of stepping back, not in defeat, but in dignity. The icy art of detachment is not about isolation, nor is it a withdrawal born from bitterness. It is the gentle reclaiming of the soul's sovereignty when the noise of others threatens to drown out the truth of who you are. Human beings are bound together by invisible threads, expectations, projections, unspoken demands. Every glance in a crowded room, every subtle shift in tone, carries a weight that presses upon your identity. The fragile heart, desperate to be recognized, bends itself to meet these pressures. But Hogan would remind us that this bending, repeated endlessly, does not create harmony, it creates fracture. The self becomes divided, part of it contorting into roles and masks, while another part retreats inward, yearning for quietude. Here lies the origin of the fear of involvement culture, the dread that by engaging too deeply with others, one's essence will be swallowed, distorted, or dissolved. Imagine this. You are standing in a conversation, the words circling around you like restless birds, yet you feel invisible. No matter how you shape your answers, no matter how polite or agreeable your tone, there is a gnawing sense that you are not truly seen. This is the ego's theatre, where each person projects their own shadow and desire onto another. You are not heard. You are used as a screen for someone else's unfinished story. It is in this moment that the art of detachment reveals its quiet power. Not by lashing out, not by proving oneself, but by simply stepping back, allowing the storm of projections to pass without fastening them onto your worth. In every society, there exists a deep current of fear of being unloved, unacknowledged, unnoticed. To fight against this fear, many lose themselves in endless performance. Louder voices, brighter images, constant availability. And yet, Hogan teaches that true peace begins the moment you realize that your core self-worth is untouched by others' recognition. Self-worth is not a mirror to be polished by their approval. It is the mountain stone that remains immovable whether the world praises or mocks. Detachment, in this sense, is not the denial of connection, but the refusal to let connection dictate the essence of your being. You might feel unsettled at this thought. Does detachment mean coldness? Does it mean becoming indifferent, unfeeling, estranged? No. Detachment is not the freezing of the heart, but the tempering of it. A heart too easily swayed is a heart that breaks under the slightest breeze. A detached heart is one that has learned the rhythm of silence, that has discovered how to breathe in stillness without collapsing under loneliness. This is where the male and female unconscious intertwine. The masculine longing for solitude, the feminine longing for communion, both harmonized in a silence that is neither isolating nor suffocating, but restorative. To practice detachment is to listen to both voices without letting either dominate. In the modern world, trauma often manifests as an overexposure to others. Social media, crowded offices, family obligations, each demands pieces of your attention, your emotional energy, your identity. Slowly you feel hollow, your individuality thinned out like a shadow at dusk. The silent withdrawal becomes not a weakness, but a survival. Hogan's insight whispers, there is strength in choosing when to engage and when to release, in knowing that peace is not found in ceaseless validation, but in the icy clarity of inner silence. The fear of involvement that saturates contemporary culture is not irrational. It is the body's instinctive defense against being consumed. But where most stop at fear, the art of detachment transforms it into freedom. Perhaps you have noticed how some people carry an aura of calm even in turbulence. They are not unfeeling. They are unshaken. They move through conversations like stones in a river, unmoved by currents, yet shaping the flow itself. These individuals embody the art Hugin describes. Their silence is not a void, but a presence. Their detachment not an absence, but a shield of dignity. In their stillness, you feel your own noise, reflected back to you. And suddenly you realize how much of your life is entangled in the restless search for external confirmation. Detachment confronts you with a truth you may resist. You are already enough, even when unseen. So the next time you feel compelled to justify yourself, to explain endlessly, to cling for reassurance, pause. Notice how much of your energy bleeds away when you let others' shadows define you. Detachment invites you to stand in your own silence, to trust that your essence does not need to be broadcast to be real. Silence is not the absence of connection. It is the ground upon which true connection can grow, stripped of projection and pretense. The icy art of detachment is the warmth of knowing that you belong to yourself first. And from there, only from there, can you offer genuine presence to others. Detachment, in its deeper form, is not a rejection of humanity, but a refinement of it. It strips away the unnecessary, the burdens of pretense, and reveals the unadorned essence that lives beneath the surface. Imagine a sculpture carved from stone. Its form emerges not through addition, but through subtraction. So it is with the psyche. In peeling away the layers of societal expectation, in cutting through the noisy entanglements of ego projection, the individual arrives at something purer, something more resilient. Natori Hogan would say that detachment is the chiseling tool of the soul, shaping what has always been there, waiting for release. In every human interaction, there is a hidden tension between the need to be accepted and the need to remain authentic. When these forces collide, most choose acceptance, bending their truth in exchange for belonging. Yet this bargain carries a cost. For every compromise in authenticity weakens the foundation of self-worth. Over time, the individual becomes a hollowed vessel, filled not with their own essence, but with the projections of others. The art of detachment, then, is the act of saying no, not aggressively, but quietly, firmly, with a clarity that requires no defense. It is the decision to remain whole, even when it means standing apart. Consider the archetype of the wanderer, the one who moves lightly through society, never fully tethered, never fully claimed. Such a figure is often misunderstood as aloof or cold, yet beneath the surface lies a profound wisdom. The wanderer understands the danger of being ensnared by roles that promise security but deliver suffocation. In a world built on transactional relationships, where value is measured in usefulness, conformity, or performance, the wanderer chooses instead the freedom of silence. He or she embodies Hugin's vision of self-worth that is intrinsic, immune to the applause or disdain of the crowd. And yet, detachment is not merely for the wanderer. You too carry within yourself this archetype, dormant perhaps, but ready to awaken. Think of the times you felt drained after social gatherings, the weight of false laughter still clinging to you hours later. Think of the unease in your chest when you agreed to something against your inner voice, all for the sake of keeping peace. These are the small betrayals of the self, repeated until they harden into habit. To practice detachment is to interrupt this cycle, to reclaim the dignity of saying, enough. It is not rebellion, it is alignment with your inner truth. There is a psychological beauty in detachment, for it untangles the unconscious dynamics that often govern human behavior. The masculine unconscious, with its drive for independence and control, and the feminine unconscious, with its hunger for communion and nurture, both risk distortion when left unexamined. The masculine may grow rigid, brittle in its isolation. The feminine may dissolve into self-erasure, consumed by the needs of others. Detachment restores balance, offering both sides the space to breathe. It teaches the masculine to soften without losing strength, and the feminine to preserve boundaries without abandoning care. In this harmony, individuality blooms without fear. Modern trauma complicates this picture. Many have learned to equate silence with punishment, detachment with abandonment. A withdrawn parent, a neglectful partner, a dismissive authority. These experiences wound the psyche, convincing it that detachment is dangerous. Yet Hugin reminds us that healing lies not in avoiding silence, but in transforming it. True detachment is chosen, not imposed. It is a sanctuary, not a prison. When you learn to distinguish between the coldness of neglect and the clarity of self-possession, you reclaim silence as a friend. You learn that being alone is not the same as being rejected. It is, in fact, a return to wholeness. Perhaps this is why so many resist attachment. They fear the void. They fear that if they step back, they will vanish, unnoticed and unloved. But this fear is born from a misunderstanding of self-worth. Self-worth does not need witnesses. It exists whether or not it is acknowledged. The tree grows in the forest, whether or not anyone walks past to admire it. The mountain stands whether or not anyone names it. And so too your being holds its value, unshaken by applause or silence. Detachment is the practice of remembering this truth again and again, until the fear of vanishing dissolves. Notice how, in detachment, emotions change texture. Anger loses its sharpness when you no longer need to prove yourself. Sadness softens when you no longer measure your worth by what others give or withhold. Even joy becomes deeper, freer, when it is not chained to approval. This is not emotional numbness, but emotional refinement. The capacity to feel without being enslaved by feeling. To live detached is to become an observer of your own inner weather, watching clouds pass without clinging to them, knowing that the sky of your essence remains untouched. And here perhaps is the heart of Haugen's teaching. Detachment is not about closing the door to the world, but about opening the door within. It is about cultivating a silence so spacious that others' projections no longer weigh upon you. In this silence, you find not absence but presence, the presence of your true self, steady and serene. And from this presence, you can choose freely how to engage, when to speak, when to retreat. Detachment